Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Asian American Writers Workshop. We're so happy to have all of you. Absolutely. A little bit about the space. For 30 years, the Asian American Writers Workshop has done all that it could to amplify the voices of Asian Americans. It operates from an ethos of radical inclusivity, and what that means is it expands the definition of what it means to be a writer and an Asian American. As a Palestinian for whom this country doesn't often feel like home, this place does. And over the last 6 months, it's demonstrated that, whether it's by supporting Palestinian writers or Palestinian activism in the city, either through encampments at FIT, City College, or elsewhere. That being said, we'd like to bring your attentions to two organizations. One is called Gaza Funds, and Gaza Funds works towards taking any donations to direct relief efforts in Gaza, as well as evacuation for those who have to leave, and the municipality of Gaza, which was worked with by the late poet Rafat Al-Aried, and they work to repair the water infrastructure of Gaza. Both organizations, QR codes on the back if you want to donate after the show. Before we begin, a couple of housekeeping notes. There are two bathrooms in the back. Masking is required. If you don't have a mask, we have them out there. And River will be selling books in the back after the show. Let us begin. I'll bring up your first reader. Your first reader is Jimena Lucero. Who is a writer and cultural worker living on Lenape, Canarsie land in Queens. Please put your hands together for Jimena.
Thank you, everyone, for making time to attend this reading in person and virtually. I am going to read a brief essay on struggle and Palestinian solidarity. And so I'll begin. Tragedy is a part of everyday life under staged American imperial power, and it will be until its crimes are acknowledged and tried. Love is at risk here and has been since the inception of this brutal colonial state. The practice of love is worth sharing, developing, and protecting if one is lucky to come across it. I believe the practices of today will be useful tomorrow. Getting closer to love is through resistance. This includes, but is not limited to, armed resistance against oppressors. It feels like this needs to be said now, as there is liberal condemnation towards it to sympathize with those committing genocide. Meanwhile, there have been decades of settler states flagrantly displaying their opposition to liberation and equipping themselves with genocidal technologies and rhetoric. It would be ideal for the need of armed resistance to be unnecessary, but the conditions prove that this is nearly impossible. James Baldwin once wrote, "It is not permissible that the authors of devastation should also be innocent. It is the innocence which constitutes the crime." People across the globe are witnessing the settler state of Israel decimating human life with the full financial and immoral support of the United States and other Western empires. The US defends Israel because it used the same tactics to form this nation. Israel's occupation and state creation is with the intent to disappear Palestinian people whose roots for the land go generations deep, a land where religious pluralism once thrived. The conscience of settler states and their defenders have been proven to be undiscovered, but I have hope in people who are guided by liberatory love. Those who have become familiar with America's violence, be it because we've been targets, passive witnesses, which none of us are, or even at once perpetrators of it, will be forced to live with the reality of being barely alive if we don't do anything about it. The reflexive urges to kill from settlers will continue to fail since the ideas of liberation simply cannot be destroyed. The struggles for the liberation of land from profit and violent occupation are a threat to settler states everywhere. They need to kill to maintain the facade of their power. An example is the murder of forest defender Toisan in Atlanta. The humility and innocence American liberals claim to have is insincere. It's the same innocence that has facilitated the mass murder of Black and Indigenous colonized people, disabled people, and trans people through state-sanctioned violence. If we are moved towards justice and towards love, we must resist the powers that be, as Ms. Major says. Thank you. I'm gonna read 3 more poems, and some of these are new. River, thank you so much for inviting me, and I'm so happy to be here on the launch of your book. So thank you so much. And so I've been thinking what my work is about, and I think my work is in some ways engages with what violence is. So this next poem is Ordinary Fantasy. What is at stake in the end, if not my life? I hate this violent day. My dense smile crawls into the corners of unsuspecting inspectors. The mirror is a silver danger turned dagger. Black hair swirls around my neck and it intervenes with my motion. I race hours and minutes. I lose. My body is not genitalia, but who cares about what I think? He honks at me from his car. He is a sperm ghost. I do not notice when desire becomes rage. A very fine line. Thank you. You will see. The apartment has been dirty and I cannot get myself to clean it. I am too tired to speak of the pain, so I just let myself be. I should care more, I tell myself, but I cannot force it. My bed has not been cleaned. The sheets are moldy. When he comes, I cook for him. My kids color the walls, and I don't care. It is not my home. My home is far from me. I have been neglected. There is a honeycomb forming in my kitchen. The bees buzz. My language is silent and forgotten. I am talked about by others. I do not care to defend myself. I will take my children with me where I go. There is no freedom without them. Thank you for being here. This is a new poem that I wrote, which is after Samuel Delaney's Times for Red, Times for Blue, Contact. My upbringing has taught me that the layers of cities invite attention to the pulses and impulses of those around us, not as surveillance, but as synthesis. Cities feel driven by conflict. The city is interclass, segregated, and policed. What is collaborative and uncontained is its pulse and impulse. I was laughing shamelessly in front of El Palacio de Bellas Artes while on the phone with Miriam. After the gossip-filled call, I walked towards the park, just wandering, no intent, impulse. A young man coming out of the subway station caught my attention through his unwavering stare, intent, pulse. We neared each other. ¿Me haces una chaqueta? He asked. He was so polite in his inquiry for a hand job. I had time and no place in particular to go. After he finished, he asked for my number. I believe more as courtesy than intent. The noise of the city was loud. He didn't get it down. Perhaps already satisfied, why ask me to repeat myself? Connection in the city can be disrupted until desire and eventual contact take place again. In waiting, there is the bound to occur, the merging, the synthesizing. Without notice, our geography quickly separated us. Two tall-suited men then walked by me as I cleaned my hand with a tissue. Thank you.
Keep it going, keep it going, I know.
You love to hear it, you love to hear it. It's what community sounds like.
Yes.
All right, our second reader for the evening is Taylor Alyson Lewis. That's right. Taylor is a writer and educator based in Philadelphia. He received the 2017 Edith A. Hamby Poetry Prize, sponsored by the Academy of American Poets, the 2020 Martha's Vineyard Institute of Creative Writing Queer Writer Fellowship in Prose, and the 2023 Lily Elby Scholarship sponsored by Lambda Literary. His work appears in that group, Poetry Online, Voicemail Poems, Columbia Journal, and elsewhere. Taylor, thank you for joining us from Philadelphia. Put your hands together. There we go.
I'm smiling. Thank you, everyone, for being here. My mom is here on the Zoom.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. I didn't know she was
So that's really great. Yeah, so yeah, I have a few poems that I'm just gonna read, and yeah, let's get into it. This first one is called Elegy for my grandfather, James. My grandfather died actually before I was born. I never met him. He died when my mother was a little girl. And I really don't know or didn't know that much about him until very recently. My grandmother, even though we spent like years of our lives together, never really talked about him at all. So everything I've heard has been secondhand. So this is for him and in his memory. If your body was wrapped in black suit and tie, and your smoke could clear the velvet room inside of it, then whose dreams are you in? Who gets to touch your hair? Who gets to wear your sunglasses and your dashiki? Who gets to beat your bongos and bring you home and back again? Who gets to say what you left behind? Who gets to check on the hashish baking in the oven? Who gets to run from Vietnam alive? Not the Vietnamese, but you, the man there, killing them with feet as soft as the day you was born. You were home from Vietnam, a citizen and a king in Atlanta, watching Ali box across the brand new screen in the living room, whooping, hollering, smoking a long cigarette, clinking ice against the glass, ashing on the carpet. But what about the little girl who may still be climbing into the recliner to rest in the purgatory of your lap, and some version of her forever child life, where there is no death, no citizens, no kings, no hashish, no Vietnam War, gone and gone and gone. And what is fear? Should I be scared of you, man? Sit next to me. Come on and stay. I teach high school in Philadelphia. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Someone say good luck. Yeah. Yeah, baby. And it's great, but it's a lot of like cognitive dissonance for me, for the students, for like everybody involved. So this one is called Amazonian Piranhas Attend Professional Development. Those meetings get so spicy. I'm like, damn, it's just a standardized state test. Moving forward, I only need to smell flesh in the water. There are no abrasions required. The futility of my hunger will demand respect on my behalf. The potential for violence makes up my family. These are the siblings I swim through murderous rivers with. We scrap for oxygen. The trickster god was a fish, and then he was a slave. Like him, I play a long game. The water is quiet until that flesh drops. No such thing as quiet flesh. This one is a parable. I like parables, like Rare Rabbit. I like the morals. Cool. It's called The God and the Dog. Once I chased a god through the manicured hiking trails of stolen woodlands in the same way a dog would have chased a Porsche around a cul-de-sac. At a clearing burnt to ashes, I looked out at the gray water in its fitful frothing. What I found was disconcerting to me for the very first time, a blue, the color of bloody spit, dark and coagulated, and not mine. I am a wolf in ragged winter, and I'm with my siblings. They call my names in unison. Wild boy, cheeky bastard, firebringer, liquor holder, big smoke, all teeth and no polish. I call myself myself. Another's throat responds. The carnivorous god, made of brio flesh, steps towards me from the tree line. This next one is for my grandma. Yeah. Yeah, this is for you, Cookies. All right. Dear grandma, I miss you, girl. I see the butterfly of you on top of every Honda Civic, and I feel the white warmth of your wings on my back. I promised to take care of Mom. Girl, I miss you, your butterfly. I promised to take care of your Honda Civic. I see your white wings on every butterfly. Grandma, I promised to miss you. I prayed, my back, I feel Mom. I promised butterfly. I promised every butterfly and Honda Civic. Grandma, I prayed, I promised your butterfly. I take care of your wings. Butterfly, I see your wings on top of my grandma's Honda Civic. I miss my mom. I promise to take care of you. I promise to take care. I feel you, girl. Dear grandma, I miss the butterfly of you. I pray for your Honda Civic. I just got two more. Yeah, so I teach high school, so I've been proctoring the Keystone, which is the Pennsylvania standardized test. Riveting stuff. It's exactly what I got into it for. So this is called standardized tests. Question 1. What is teacher within a white supremacist framework of school, education, and pedagogy? A, master. B, overseer. C, gatekeeper. D, disciplinarian. Or E, parent. Footnote 1, teacher. Teacher implies white. Teacher is always white. Even Black teachers walk the path of whiteness sometimes. All teachers operating within US school systems are contractual teachers of whiteness. We are all white teacher. White teacher reaches towards race neutrality as an improbable goal. Footnote 2, master. Master of specialized knowledge, master of the bodies in the room and their functions, master of selective observation, master of content, master of the 2-week notice. Footnote 3, overseer. By withholding the power of literacy from Black children who refuse to behave as obedient and grateful slaves should, classroom overseers reveal their commitment to domination over the liberation of self-control. In this way, the dynamics of the plantation are maintained both consciously and unconsciously by teacher and student. Footnote 4, gatekeeper. The fear of reenacting the brutality of the plantation is erased by a pathological need to stand as a gatekeeper of what, when, where, and how Black children learn. Footnote 5, disciplinarian. The expectation to act as disciplinarian to Black children is the teacher's greatest source of anxiety, resentment, and paranoia. Discipline becomes a place where care, consideration, and objectivity are not at all possible. Black children's understanding of redirection as disrespect is therefore partly accurate because of these implications. Power tools are tools of patriarchy and white supremacy. Footnote 6, parent, better or more educated parent is always implied. Okay, this one more. Oh. My siblings and I meet Ogun on Broad Street. Shout out Philly. God, the way it rained that night, the way the sky wept for us, gentle waves of water knives sliced the bloated moon in half for 20 straight minutes while we passed a broken cigarette between index and middle fingers, tipped with clean nails. We learned that every supposedly dangerous place and person usually always possesses a beautiful name, and this Black de facto consideration flourishes in the city of Philadelphia, Diamond, East Parkside, Strawberry Mansion, Rising Sun, Hunting Park, Germantown, Kensington, Wissahickon, Philadelphia. The lyric softness of 1,000 old school crooners whisper Philos, the dearly beloved friend, and hold Adelphos, the beautiful Black brother near. Watch the knife in your back. Place the knife in mine, right there, where I burn the brightest. In the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection, we meet Ogun. He is the threshold guardian in white on the stretch of Broad Street where neon replaces trees. Some men are dangerous. Most are just angry gods. Brother, I do love the angry God in you. You curse out every motherfucker who ever even thought of cutting their eyes sideways, and I find myself tracing the circle of your story over and over again on my skin. Sister, I touch you. I touch all of your silk skin, honey, while the rain bathes us in street light. My sister's affection spoons collard greens into Ogun's mouth on Broad Street. Ogun say, I'm from 8th and Diamond, North. At the F and the invitation, a mamba come out his mouth. And even though the electric bathwater magic of the night surrounds the dark possibility of danger, I am not nervous. Ogun say to my sibling, you look real fucking good, baby, and kisses the puckered brow of a ready nipple with tongue. Of course, God was in the room. on the street, in the rain, sharing a cigarette, sucking on their chests as if they were the sacred mother. Niggas be gay, baby. God made us this way. In Revelations, it's only the sinner man who got the stamina to run from rock to top to sin and back again. Thank you.
Keep it going, keep going, wow.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Taylor. That was wonderful. Our third reader this evening is Jasmine Reid. Jasmine Reid is a twice trans poet of flowers. She's the winner of the Honeysuckle Press Chapbook Contest, recipient of fellowships from Cave Canem Poets House and Jack Jones Literary Arts. Jasmine was born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland, and is currently based in Brooklyn, New York, where she is a visiting assistant professor at Pratt Institute. Please put your hands together for Jasmine Reid.
Good evening. Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks everyone for being here. Thank you so much, River, for inviting me to celebrate the launch of your beautiful book. I'm so excited to hear you read and to get a copy later today. To start out, I wanted to read an excerpt of a poem and then a full poem from Palestinian poet Mahmoud Darwish, who I adore and have been returning to with a sort of renewed devotion over the past several months. So I'm going to read first an excerpt from his poem, A Rhyme for the Odes. And I wanted to say too, before I start to read, that one of the sort of ways that I feel touched and moved and challenged by his work is thinking about the poetics of worldlessness. And so existing in exile as he did, as someone born in Galilee, who lived the vast majority of his life in exile after being expelled from his home. And as was right in my bio, existing as a twice trans person, which means being transatlantic and transgender, and so living in multiple across fromness, holding this sort of etymological root of trans being across. And so again, thinking about the poetics of worldlessness. So I'm going to read the first page of this poem, A Rhyme for the Odes. So I'm gonna A Rhyme for the Odes. No one guided me to myself. I am the guide. Between desert and sea, I am my own guide to myself. Born of language on the road to India between two small tribes, adorned by the moonlight of ancient faiths and an impossible peace. Compelled to guard the periphery of a Persian neighborhood in the great obsession of the Byzantines, so that the heaviness of time lightens over the Arab's tent. Who am I? This is a question that others ask, but has no answer. I am my language. I am an ode, 2 odes, 10. This is my language. I am my language. I am words is writ, be my body, and I become an embodiment of their timbre. I am what I've spoken to the words, be the place where my body joins the eternity of the desert, be so that I may become my words. No land on earth bears me, only my words bear me. A bird born from me who builds a nest in my ruins before me, and in the rubble of the enchanting world around me. I stood on a wind, and my long night was without end. This is my language.
a necklace of stars around the necks of my loved ones. They emigrated. They carried the place and emigrated. They carried time and emigrated. One of the things that I also carry from that poem and feel attached by my own poetic practice is given worldlessness, making a sort of a place in language, but also thereby sort of unsettling place, or unsettling what we think of by place, how we understand place. And in that unsettlement, I also mean metaphorically, but also literally, unsettling the settler colonial state of place. This next poem by Mahmoud Darwish is called Sonnet 2. Perhaps you ask only for ambiguity when you turn your back to the river. There, in autumn sprinkles water onto a stag from a passing cloud. There, on what you left behind on the crumbs of your departure. The Milky Way is your ambiguity, the dust of nameless stars. Your ambiguity is a night in pearls lighting nothing but water. As for speech, it can light the night of someone setting forth between two odes and two rows of palms with a single word, love. I'm the one who saw his tomorrow when he saw you. I'm the one who saw gospels written by the last idolater on the slopes of Gilead before the old countries and after. I am the cloud returning to a fig tree which bears my name, just as the sword bears the face of the slaughter. Perhaps when you turn your shadow to me, you bestow upon metaphor the meaning of something that is about to happen. I enjoyed that last line, so upon metaphor, the meaning of something that is about to happen, which I also just take as an invocation or sort of maybe a provocation as a writer to hold that my language is not simply a sort of alternate place, but an imperative to create and to build, and in collectivity, a world in which all of us can live with dignity and self-determination. But now to my poems. This first poem is called Displace. So sort of carrying forward what I was saying earlier. And it begins with an epigraph from Barbadian poet Kamal Brathwaite, who passed away a few years ago. His book Conversations with Nathaniel Mackey. Title epic, constantly coming from where she had come. Unsure, unmoored from place, water encased, the bothersome bottom of from. Father, I dance in absentia, missing school, letters bring me back to the streets you'd know, live fish slapped with waterless concrete. My head hits brick side and these fatherless hydrants, never tied over eyes. I'd be lung, Chesapeake, to Gill, Jamaica, you know, study the Atlantic Reef, sweep back this place, hug forth from you. And if you fuck, I'm really struggling. My mouth slipping down my face, I'm trying to breathe. Frustrating.
Your time.
My earring came off. Okay, so this next poem is called Trawling the Cold Moon. We're in the space of mythological banquet. Trawling the Cold Moon. Beside your mirth is a superlative moon. Tonight, between poems we read to buttermilk, frothing, footwise in overcoats, scarves, overcast ribbons, light wraps the evening. O'er cream, the air beams wishing between us this equal and opposing feeling. You lean, corolla off mist into my shoulder roll. What to be aimed, mid-gorge, petrify these falls I choose to row. Wide wave crests, each superposition could unshatter our lips to shared spit notes we cast off into froth, ritual of letting go. So friend, ship, we say, even though Sappho, we sound just troll. This next poem is called Be Loam. Loam means like uh, fertile, life-bearing earth and soil. And so something I'm thinking about in this poem and often in my work is belonging, and a sort of homophonic tension between belonging having to do with possession, and then the sort of, if you just add a space between those two words, to belong, to extend in community and collectivity. Yeah, so this poem is just like me reckoning with this leaf that happened, that like flew its way into my day. Belong. I behold my hand to air, and leaf befalls my palm. We be friends. The air head be winds my bending, croach and skim, fingers be long over the grasses, indigenous and otherwise. These depredations be from where we hold. In the season, awe and dissent moan into each other's mouths. A leaf threads between my thumb and ribs, just grazing. Is belonging the lens we land on the tumble to dust, while the invisible bewebs its vellus leaf in the colony of us. To be, leave, I press leaf to ground. I be missed, you be missed. Simple, like floofy, crunchy story behind that poem is I was in Central Park, and yeah, a leaf just sort of like flew directly into my hand. It's so beautiful and touching. I was like, yo, we're friends now. Also, it's a leaf sort of detached, deracinated from, this place of nourishment. And so, again, thinking about belonging and being long, when I arrived to class, I was teaching a class that evening, I just sort of returned it to the soil, rather than like keep it in my person to crush and crumble and then have nowhere to sort of decompose and recompose and then and so I thought about that as being alone rather than exercising this sort of possession or belonging. Next poem is called The Moon and the Yew Tree. It is after a Sylvia Plath poem. Her poem is YEW, as in sort of evergreen tree. Mine is YOU tree. The moon and the yew tree. Silly me. I raise tide, eyes high, and diaphragm flips, hits, heart's Atlantic floor. Moon white cast on sand dial silt and the sedge. Crescent gibbous squint as ships wreck, thump, thump, wood on shore, groaning. Can't inlet or oar to soil. Motherland gone. A father's thick roots buried in a distant city. In the yew tree, worn, perennial and far, here as the unconsoling sky. The moon is my sister. All her light is second hand. A leaden scar, a cooing wound. My feet are ballrooms filled with gospel, my many organs conspiring to live. The yew tree's needle leaves feather my slip. I fall, bluish rouged, bloodshot and bespectacled as two moons, looking. Moon, can you see? We are black and alone, hobbled homonym of parting, heart company, heart cut. Another gone, knives intimate. Moon can't see. Her Maria art, dry bowls for far away spoons, can't water without we. The yew tree stirs stars above me. I play the lark of darling in cold light. My corona borrowed and pitiful. Nerves pace their halls, house of a dying child. I don't see. Every feeling crowded with hope. There's only leaving and leaves jabbing my back, drawing red longing onto grass. Even bleeding crowded with hope. I reach for a sound or a branch of touch. Its grasp after the stars. The yew tree says nothing, not a limb in reach. Moon is full and red as Mars, a scar let loose, planetary as a heart. There is a hole between moon and moan. I live here in the silence, underneath the yew tree, a devastated maroon. I'm just relatively short poem. So the next poem is called Oplasty. And sort of imagining, or not even imagining, it's just holding in language. Vaginoplasty as a sort of transformative, transfigurative space. And something that I was really interested in this poem is the astronomic concept of a perfect black body, one word, which is a model and among other sort of phenomena based on a black hole, a black figure space that absorbs all light, reflects nothing, thereby like entirely sort of is fugitive to visibility. And so as a person of trans experience, I'm often thinking about visibility. We have a whole day dedicated to it, right? Yeah, but often we're sort of, and this isn't to sort of say that we don't deserve to be visible, we don't deserve to be celebrated, obviously, but visibility, particularly within a secular colonial frame, is not liberatory. It is not going to liberate us. It's not going to save us. Right. And so a thing in this poem that I wanted to do was rearrange or at least defy the terms of visibility by way of the perfect black body. And I think I'll end here. You'll get to hear the next poem another time. I'll plug where you can read it. Oh, classic. Anesthetic umbilicus counts backwards. Vanta black body, absorb, make ideal me impervious to sight. Holy cavity without photos fear. The event absorbs all light, cuts into my navel, ultraviolet. Flickers of new nursing in the black body packing. Every vantage vanished in viscous horizons, asteral inflections, fetal Venus lined with trichromatic teeth, eating grief in infancy. Black body incisions excruciate. Unbending, daisies, star full stomach lining, gaseous, anti-sight. Black body drains even the blood from womb, can't move limb without a new red sea. What deity in extremity, warm in the ultra visible, vaginal anti-eye, this black birth I give myself. Thank you all so very much. Thank you all so much. I just wanted to plug, the poem that I didn't read is called Orchids and Rope Play, and it'll be available in the Canyon Review this summer.
Mahmoud Darwish is our poet laureate. We have a museum for him in Palestine in the shape of an open book. So thank you very much, Jasmine, for sharing his words. One more time. Jasmine Reid. All right. Now for River Ying Dandelion. River is a practitioner of ancestral medicine through writing poetry, teaching, energy healing, and creating ceremony. As a poet, he writes to connect with the unseen and unspoken so we can feel and heal. A Tin House resident, Lambda Literary Fellow, and Kundiman Fellow, River is the author of Remembering Your Light, his debut chapbook on honoring matriarchs and ancestors. At its core, River's work lives in the intersections of personal transformation towards collective liberation. He attests our stories will not be forgotten. For more, riverdandelion.com. Put your hands together for River Ying Dandelion.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, River.
Big thank you to all of the readers who read before me, Jasmine, Jimena, and Taylor. That was really beautiful. I want to start us off with a collective breath together. So get a little bit more comfortable where you're seated. Shake out the day. And we're going to take 3 collective breaths together. For folks joining in on the Zoom, you're welcome to do this as well. So inhale through the nose and release through the mouth. Another one just like that, inhaling. Release. And then one more, let this be the biggest breath you've taken all day. Inhale. And let it out. Student Intifada. Toisan says this is the first time she's felt hope since. Gazans are beginning to call this the Student Intifada. Children in tent cities of Rafah write thank you to students at Columbia and City and NYU and Rutgers, banner drops of long live the Intifada. And with our bodies, we shake off dust at the root, remove remaining rot that prevents us from claiming Intifada. This 2024 spring feels like 2014 summer, the air as warm as the time everything felt possible, Ferguson Intifada. The year Palestinians on Twitter told organizers in Missouri to treat tear gas sliced eyes with milk, lessons from Second Intifada. The year we learned weapons tossed in West Bank were the same ones aimed at community here, NYPD, IOF, US, Israel, quells Intifada. Politicians shine true colors now, professors too. Literary institutions, pen and poetry, writing for them has never been about Intifada, but yes, representation, yes, uplift impacted voices, more funding, more prestige, more accolades, squelch Intifada. Students began their encampment in Newark last night after NYPD tore off hijabs to humiliate, threatened by the young, leading Intifada. These nights, sleepless, though I do not sacrifice my body now. How can I sit by my own name is criminalized during Intifada? Shout out to all the organizers, shout out to all the young people, all the elders, also sharing lessons and leading the way. Shout out to everyone fighting for our freedom struggles locally and also globally. The next poems I'm going to be reading from Remembering Your Light, which I'll hold up here. I just want to say it's really special to be here in this space specifically because it is through the Asian American Writers Workshop that I first got up on my open mic, like way back in 2017 or maybe before then, when I was still coming into myself as a writer and believing that my words and my thoughts and my feelings like meant something for the greater collective. And so shout out to the space, shout out to the legacies of cultural organizing in the city that spanned for decades and beyond. For my ancestors, for grandparents who raised me, for trans and genderqueer kids of diaspora, for you looking to remember, we create roadmaps by being. Autumn Moon. And this poem is dedicated to anyone who grew up with their grandparents. We lived nights in the concrete living room, caught fireflies in congee quart containers, toothpicked saran wrap, temporary homes of light. Popo would unfold the wooden table, lay cauliflower and mokni, baked chicken, steamed fish, and halfat soup. Our apricot chopsticks clinked as my DIY aunt, who made chopsticks and anti-mosquito salves, rose at the table and spoke. We celebrate today in honor of a banished goddess who drank a lover's elixir of immortality to save it from the hands of evil. Chang'e became the moon, and we honor her with a feast. My cousins and I listened with our mouths open, vermicelli dangling. Even in the afterlife, she shined for the entire planet. I didn't understand the spirit world, how eternal sacrifice divorced gravity, how moon goddess lived with Armstrong's footsteps. When I first learned the American flag proudly waving in space was painted to be blowing, I was 5. There's no wind on the moon. After the harvest. We sold the house after Gong passed. Before keys bolted for final time, I inventoried what we left behind. Basement bar stools, missing red envelopes, faded photographs, shuttered secrets, hand-me-down rocking horse. I ran my fingers down sunburnt orange door till the paint peeled sycamore out front, older than Paul's migration. Watch over the house, let her spirit rest in ease. Let leaves do the sleeping. This next poem is a call and response poem, which means it's gonna require audience participation. Are you ready? So I think a lot about how my grandparents and different folks in my ancestral line, they weren't necessarily writers in the same way I am. And yet, like, what they did in terms of cooking specifically passed down so much in terms of ancestral memory. And so this poem is kind of an ode to that. And the line that I'm asking you all to repeat with me when I gesture is, "We wrote it down in food." Okay, can we practice that actually? This poem is called,
We wrote it down.
this poem is called,
We wrote it down in food.
this poem is called,
We wrote it down in food.
Scrapped tools, buried incense, burned pamphlets in bonfire, snatched, scrapped, stomped, scraped stones, struck body, scarred spirit.
We wrote it down in food.
When war came, we donned armor, cloaked shrouds, cradled babies, abandoned home, stole ship, resisted magic, feigned new dawns.
We wrote it down in food.
Donned aprons no one knew we had,
We wrote it down in food.
sharpened knives with chance,
We wrote it down in food.
scoured walks clean, quiet in cants,
We wrote it down in food.
kneaded mugwort with both hands,
We wrote it down in food.
new skin to flower would reach you.
We wrote it down in food.
Here, take this teacup and sip.
We wrote it down in food.
Let us tell you what transpired after. So many papers, so many poems. Okay. Thank you for doing that with me. Being your own mic stand while holding the mic, while holding your book and your poems. Thank you. This next poem is for anyone who has gone on family root searches or have wanted to and come upon dead ends. And I also think about through this poem how even though what we don't find in written form still reaches us through spirit and through poetry and through words. In Hoi Ping, I finally find the town whose library has the genealogical book with the names of my ancestors. We find my grandmother's father's name on page 1112. Anticipation rises, smile fades. Grandma's name is missing. We only record the names of sons, the genealogist explains. I flip back generations, fingers set the book in flames. We were historians once. When genealogists trotted door to door, harboring names of sons we watched. Behind the steam of rose clay lids, sinking sun swept cool cement of our homes, we declared, we will gather history ourselves. So we huddled our daughters, made rounds in villages, asked for names of grandmothers, and what does it feel like in your body to have been raised by your mother? Some women squatted low and hugged themselves like dinosaur eggs burgeoning in earth. Others stood tiptoe like red-crowned cranes, tilted heads back and hissed, palms outstretched toward the sky. Some women immediately recoiled like rattlesnakes, spines devastated in silence and sobbed. Some heard the question and smiled big like hyenas, cackled lawlessly. We gathered this evidence in our bodies, or rather, the evidence gathered us. At the full moon, we huddled shoulder to shoulder and released. Daughters played drums. We stomped powdery red soil, bent bodies into reckonings with time. Together, we shrieked from throats, pumped fists against earth, sprouted backs wide like tree trunks. We bowed to the spirits and said, may the way we move our bodies honor your name. May fortress of our voices venerate your flame. May we love ourselves so deep we thicken roots here in this place. At close of the last drumbeat, our feet sank into damp, dark soil. Fresh river of tears drenched our souls, returned underground as ancient. Somewhere, the oceans roared and floodgates of memory cracked open. This next poem I wrote in honor of my grandfather. I think it's really interesting being a trans child of diaspora. Relationship to family is complicated, and yet I see that it's in like other trans folks who are the ones who are like so concerned with like figuring out lineage. And also like maintaining connections with folks, and exercising immense grace and patience. A lot of my poems are inspired by oral histories, the intergenerational ones. And the reason I turned to the page is I found that through like setting up a recorder in front of folks and like asking them to tell their story, they weren't comfortable with that. And so I had to find a way to be able to document and to write them that worked. And so it was through poetry that happened. And this next piece is about my grandfather, my yaya, who was a refugee of the Cultural Revolution. He made a 5-mile swim from southern China in Guangdong to Hong Kong in the 70s. And I share this thinking also about families in Gaza who are kind of like making impossible decisions about leaving home. And so I share all of that with you for this next poem. How we survived Yaya's pantoum. We were watermelon husks to hide, lost cargo floating east to Hong Kong. Water lilies and crickets, our last witness. We departed the cat-tailed creek one final time. Lost cargo floating east to Hong Kong. New Hingdai treaded water, compasses toward freedom. We departed the cat-tailed creek one final time. while sharks awaited our legs in the depths. New Hingdai treaded water, compasses toward freedom. They said we had an 80% chance of making it. Sharks awaited our legs in the depths. Breath plus breath times wanting over depth equals an 80% chance of making it. Letters sent back announced survival. Breath plus breath times wanting over depth equals banked on generations of dreaming. Letters sent back announced survival. We were promised work in the restaurants, banked on generations of dreaming. Fishermen took pity and reeled us on gasoline tanks. We were promised work in the restaurants. I clawed brown earth before collapsing. Fishermen took pity and reeled us on gasoline tanks. 5 bowls of rice in Hong Kong, my sweetest meal. I clawed brown earth before collapsing. Villagers found us gasping, fish out of water. 5 bowls of rice in Hong Kong, my sweetest meal. Memories escape me now. Villagers found us gasping, fish out of water. My thoughts enter one ear and leave the other. Memories escape me now. You being here helps me remember. When my thoughts enter one ear and leave the other, water lilies and crickets are last witness. You being here helps me remember. We wore watermelon husks to hide. I have one more poem for you. And just before that, I want to give a big thank you and shout out to the AAWW team. Thank you for dreaming this event with me months ago, Devin, to Mohammed for emceeing tonight and ensuring everything flows smooth. It really takes a team of people to make events like these happen. And I just want to give big shout out to all of you all for coming out tonight. It's the people who also make a reading, and you are the people. Okay, so for the last poem, everyone here actually gets to choose and vote which one I share. So I'm gonna ask you to shout a number, 1 or 2.
2.
1.
1.
I think it's 2. Okay, it's 2. It's 2. The other one they'll just have to see in this book. So for this last poem, I invite you to listen in a different way. So instead of like looking up front and watching, you can sit back in your seat and get a little more comfortable. If you feel like you want to, you can also close your eyes or lower your gaze. I invite multiple ways of listening. When you find yourself at the edge of safety, light a cinnamon candle. Let shadow of fire dance across third eye. Spill ink onto paper until weight of your thoughts slide you back towards center. Remember. Each spring, the banyan blooms. Water roots dangle like limbs in love, waiting to meld together. Mammoth trunks stretch wider each year, and when your hands brush this massive ridged body, realize we have lived centuries. Golden sunlight seeps into bodies that crave warmth. The slow, soft rise and fall, heartbeat of lungs. Let your body
forget its skeleton just for this moment and drift to sleep. Way you must have when you are young, in the electric heat of your father's embrace at one time when all the world was quiet. Remember, udon noodles simmer in veggie broth with bok choy and quail eggs, red dates and goji berries, dried longan honey in boils water, the smooth scratch, scratch, scratch of pencil tips transcribing memory in wide-ruled notebooks tucked in snackle box drawers. Wrap the fuzzy blanket over your head. Cuddle yourself in I love yous. Let your body grow sanctuary like parrotfish, tucked into crevices of staghorn, sleep in shields crafted from mucus of their own bodies. Create the same bubble in navy black ocean. Carry this aura until sun rays pierce rolling waves and illuminate coral reefs crackling. Life. When you find yourself at the edge of safety, call your own name, any one of them, back to you. Mm. 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 Over and over again. Mm. Mm. And rock and sway and rock and sway. Mm. 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 Until you are transported home. Mm. Mm.